Okay, rolling.
Okay. I want to welcome everyone to today's Rockland, Town of Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners working session. This meeting is being recorded for playback later on WRPS. The listings of matters of those reasonably anticipated by the chair may be discussed at this meeting. Not all items may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the limits permitted by law. With that, I'll take a motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open the meeting.
Dan, Sherry?
Second. Second.
Okay, all in favor, Mr. DeRoss?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
Mr. Hessian is a yes. Approved minutes of the previous working sessions of February 2nd, 8th, 15th, and 21st. You get a chance to read them?
I never saw them on my email.
She gave them to you last week.
Oh.
The hard copies that.
Oh, yeah, I went through those, yes.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Is the 21st in there as well?
Yes, the 2nd, 8th, 15th, and 21st. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Mr. Hessian's a yes, that's unanimous. What I want to do next is a drain layer's license. One drain layer, Mr. Mark Moran. Spent more time than I care to remember on this one. I looked at the references. I sent you an outline of a conversation I had with Mr. Moran. I think everyone got off on the wrong foot with this, including myself. I also contacted Roto-Rooter. Now, Roto-Rooter, Mr. Moran does most of the work for Roto-Rooter on an emergency basis. And the way I was explained to me by Roto-Rooter, they go down the list of people available. They don't pay attention if they were issued drain layers licenses to Rockland or what have you, which I've told them from now on, don't say to anyone it's not licensed by Rockland. So I've got to get them a drain layers license. Mr. Moran did do a job that what he was not licensed to do, however, that was an emergency on a Sunday for a resident. There was another issue on a lateral not being installed. I looked at the regulations and the work order. There was no mention of the lateral. The regulation says all new buildings laterals shall be installed and with vertical clean out and riser. I know the policy was to install them as they go. I was not clear if that was due on the residents or us. That did not get done at that job. That again is my fault. Mr. Moran also showed up for a meeting that I can't notify him of a cancellation. I think I do not want to be in a position to stop someone's livelihood. I've checked with Roto-Rooter, and they have never had a problem with Mr. Moran or the jobs he's worked on. I called his references and I got the same. I would like to also go on record that a drain layer's license is issued for 1 year and can be revoked at any time. So with that, I'm going to make a motion that we approve Mr. Moran for a drain layer's license in the town of Rockland.
I second it.
Do I have a motion and a second? Do I have a vote approved? Mr. DeRoss?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
Mr. Hessian's a yes.
You want to call me when it's my time?
Yes. You done, Mark?
Okay, somebody you want my check for this
Yes.
year?
Yes.
Today?
Yes. If you have it.
I think we sent the bond in too already.
I have everything you sent in.
Could buy us a cup of coffee.
No, but look, this isn't, to me, I'm gonna hear it in a while, so there's nothing to joke about, and I don't want to even hear it. This is everything you sent in. I'd like that one to be complete.
Just had one quick question that maybe we could clarify today. So, I've done 3 jobs in town. The first one you were talking about was, they were all for Roto-Rooter. And to your point, we get called the night before. So there really isn't an opportunity for us to come in here and try to work with you to get a permit ahead of time. It's always either on the fly or as we're going, which doesn't help you guys at all or us. The first one we did in town, I think it was a couple of years ago, Roto-Rooter, when they call me, they tell me a couple of things. It's under the plumbing permit, it's within 10 feet of the house. If if I hear that, we can work under their plumbing permit if it's within 10 feet of the house. Typically, that's the plumbing code in Massachusetts. Sometimes it's outside of that, and that's where we get into the predicament where we did on the first opportunity in town. As soon as we discovered that here, because it was our first time in town, I came immediately to this facility and started the ball rolling with, what's your fee? What do you need from me to license me? I mean, we're in 15 communities. We work from Quincy to the tip of Cape Cod, and every day we're in a different community. So we really have to be astute with kind of what we're doing, but a lot of it's on the fly, if you know what I'm saying. So, I mean, do we make mistakes? Of course we do, but that's the business that we're in. Really. So we know what our responsibility is. But my question is the third job we did
Concord Street,
on
down here.
Concord Street. When I came down to get the permit, I was told that if we dug down to the pipe and it was not SDR 35 plastic, that your regulations require that the ladder will be replaced from the curb to the house in its entirety.
I was present at that job.
Right, so I went through your regs about 4 times, but I didn't want to be ignorant to them, and I really don't see anything in there that references that at all. But we certainly want to comply with what you want us to do. So if that happens to come up the next time we're in town, if you could just let us know if you do require that or you don't require it, because we just want to make sure that we're not missing something.
Well, in all fairness too, I want to say that there's a lot of ambiguities in those ordinances that we're trying to rectify as we come across them. Again, that was it says specifically new building sewer laterals. That was not on the work order, and it was not a new building. There was also an issue that was claimed that he hit the water line, and I'm not defending Mr. Moran, I am just stating facts. What we found out on that excavation was that sewer line was installed by the previous homeowner unbeknownst to the sewer department. It was never paying sewer rates or water. It was only found by Robin when she went in and found it on the listing that it said connected to town sewer. By ordinance, that water line should have been 10 feet away from the sewer line. It was not. So I can't really fault it for that. I look at this whole incident and I'm trying to weigh the need of the residents in an emergency situation. I look at a typical workplace that you work with people, there's gonna be differences of opinion, the tempers get hot. I think that's what happened here, and it grew. I fault no one, but we have got bigger fish to fry than to dwell on this.
The other,
I do want to say one more thing, that no matter who comes in or out of this building, to all parties, I expect that, courteous, and I'm not saying anyone was not, but courteous professional behavior from everyone. But like I said, I think I want to put this behind us today. And I'm not going to be staring over your shoulders watching your jobs. They will be inspected per the code, like
Sure.
everything else. Again, my personal apology to you for not notifying you of a meeting cancellation,
sure,
but
I appreciate that.
things happen.
You did just bring up the inspection thing, so like I said, we do work in 14 other communities. When we secure our permit, typically during the dig safe process, the town comes out, they take a peek at what we're doing. If they have any specific requests or alterations, at that point they let us know. And then when the job is complete, we call them back, they come back, they inspect the work. If at that time they see our work and they want anything altered or changed, then they let us know. On the jobs that I've done in town here, we've had I believe it's a town employee, I don't know, he came
It's
up.
an employee of Veolia
Okay, so,
who happens to be at all excavations in town before and after the superintendent left.
I understand. But he, on all of the work that we did in town, spent a substantial amount of time, hours with us. And that's the last one we did on Concord Street. Until the dark of night, he was with us. But didn't communicate any discrepancies or alterations or anything to us. And then when I had asked about my renewal, I was told that things went wrong on the work that we did, but we weren't notified, not only at the time we did the work, but your regulations require that you notify me in writing of any discrepancy. I never received anything, so it was kind of I won't say that it wasn't a shock to me, but I was surprised to see that you weren't renewing my license, because we hadn't been, nothing was communicated to us that the work wasn't in compliance or with what you guys were looking for, because you had an inspector there for hours on all of the jobs, and we typically don't see that much oversight, and that's good. It's great that you guys have the oversight. We really appreciate it, and Gary's a terrific individual. But if anything was either done improperly or you wanted something else done or altered, really, we would have appreciated if he had let us know at the time, because we certainly would have done it if we would do that in every single town that we work in.
In all fairness to all parties involved, the license was not held up. We wanted to give you the opportunity to come in and explain everything. And that's where that meeting got canceled and screwed up. So like I said, I just want to put this to bed. I'm looking at it, like I said, it's nothing more than, no matter what work situation, there's going to be a disagreement. I look at that, but I also look at that the residents need emergency service when they call a Roto-Rooter. A Roto-Rooter has been told that from now on, they're not to send anyone unless there is a someone on the drain, Rockland
Well, that
drain
only
lanes.
happened on the first job a couple of years ago. Subsequent to that, we've been licensed in town, so.
Yeah, but just in case, I wanted to make sure he didn't. Matter of fact, the general manager, I believe his name is Dan or Don.
Don Barrows.
Don, he's applied for a drain lanes license as
He
well.
did tell me that, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, we've been working together for 25 years.
okay, and I hope we continue to work together as well.
Yeah. Great,
Okay.
Great guys. So, thank you very much.
That's okay, thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, let's see where we are. Old permit approvals. Now, the reason I want to bring up old permit approvals is we've had some people on that list for over 3 years. I found out in our ordinance, it specifically states permits will only be valid for no more than 2 years. Now, look, I was so organized, now I can't find it. Okay, with that, we have 2 that are outstanding. One was grandfathered in on the moratorium. I don't want to, well, I'm going to mention it, 365 Concord Street. He was grandfathered in that the moratorium would not pertain to him, but his permit was issued to him on January 20th in 2020. I would like to send him a notice to come in and let us know what is going on with that project. However, in between that our last meeting and now, amazingly, he applied for a hearing to come in. And I've scheduled him for April 23rd, for the only reason is that we have 2 on tap from the March meeting, and I don't want to, we've got a lot going on in March. I sent you a letter that I'd like to send out to Conrock, advising him that he was granted a connection for a permit on January 30th, 2020, it's the attachment, yada yada. And then I mentioned specifically that he has had several hurdles to overcome, mostly with the Concom. But however, in section 5 of the town ordinance, an individual wastewater discharge permit shall be issued for a specified period of time not to exceed 2 years from the effective date of permit. Under normal circumstances, he'd be forced to require a new connection permit. No one ever enforced this in Rockland. But the new project must comply with all terms and conditions in the Rockland ordinance. I also want to state that his conditions are dated about the moratorium. His project was approved before the moratorium was applied to prohibit new connections. The board, I'm only saying we require a vote, would be willing to extend your permit 1 more year without being affected by the current moratorium. However, we cannot do so under the original fee structure. If you wish to pursue this matter, please confirm this request for a hearing with the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners. If you do not wish to accept this offer, your permit for connection will expire 5 p.m. March 30th of this year. Again, he has applied for to renew that permit. It went from a 40-unit project to a 19-unit project. No matter how you look at it, he never approached us with change of designs. There were conditions that were originally applied to him. He never, the last drawing I saw after that meeting did not comply with the condition that was given to him. That was for an 8-inch lateral to be extended throughout the development. That condition still incision would still be in effect. I'm looking at this as an entire new project. I would also honor our commitment to him that we made, that we would honor him connection before the moratorium. He's the only one that we have that. But in my opinion only, not the board's, that the new fee structure should take place. Things have happened over the years. I am not asking you to vote on the fee structure yet. We'll do that when he appears. What I'm asking your approval is to send that letter out on the Rockland Sewer Commissioner's letterhead, and informing him of the date to appear would be April 23rd, to give him time to think about the fee structure as well.
Should we change the expiration to April?
I would put it to the April 30th of next year, and I would change the wording on that as well, yes. And I'd change to extend the hearing, I'd change the date to
Right.
give him a hearing date.
If he doesn't accept the extension offer, the permit would expire in March of
It will
2020.
expire April 30th of
Move it to April,
2023.
just to give him time to come in. Okay.
So I'd like a motion to approve sending that letter.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, Mr. DeRoss?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Mr. Ashton's a yes. So you know, town council was aware of the intention of that letter.
Now, we have another project that was approved.
I have another project that I'm bringing up now, and the letter to Concord Street, I'm gonna ask all of us to sign. This next one is a different category, and I wanna walk cautiously on this. And that letter is to Shingle Mill.
Okay. So,
Okay, Shingle Mill,
we can't, so it's an issue for discussion.
okay, let me just go on, okay? Shingle Mill received a letter from the Board of Zoning Appeals, whoever sent this letter to. It was, the Rockland Board voted to recommend that the Board of Appeals approve the project at 0 Pond Street known as Shingle Mill based on the yada yada following conditions. They were also told that they had to reapply, and here it is here. This is from the minutes of the meeting. That the belief is that if the plan is approved through the ZBA, the developer would provide final plans to the sewer commission for review and approval of the fees outlined in the amendment to be paid in exchange for a sewer connection permit. They were told twice by ZBA to return to the Rockland Board, the Sewer Board. They never have. The Shingle Mill thing has just gone on and on and on, and I'd like to take a stand on that. So I did not include Ms. Valley or Mr. DeRoss because there may be a conflict there we're not sure of. But I am going to send that letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm just giving you guys a heads up to state that basically things have changed. Do you have any thoughts on that, or?
I will not speak my thoughts. There might be a conflict of interest.
Okay, Dan, I think you should take the same approach.
You're right, take the same approach. When it comes down to vote, I will vote.
No, when it
When
comes
it-
down to vote, we
When
need
it
to,
comes to the sewer department for any decisions, you and I need to explore the conflict of interest through the State Ethics Commission.
I think you'll be all right, I'm closer than you are.
no, it doesn't matter. If you've stated opinion, you've got to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've got to
we
check
gotta
that
know.
out. I'd like to read that letter into the record if I may. Dear Mr. Roser and board members, on September 24, 2020, the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners voted 2-1 to send tentative permit conditions back to the ZBA for sewer approval considerations on the project located at 0 Pond Street, Shingle Mill. Contained in the list of conditions that were sent back to the Zoning Board of Appeals in September of 2020, there are 2 that should be emphasized and warrant closer attention. Condition 1 states that the town of Rockland sewage system, which is currently being managed under an EPA administrative order of 2006, has the capacity or able to approve by the town of Rockland to have the capacity to accept sewage from the proposed project at 0 Pond Street, Rockland, Mass. I want to go on record and inform all parties involved that since the date of the original hearing for 0 Pond Street on September 24, 2020, the town of Rockland and Rockland Sewer Department have been issued a second EPA administrative order with conditions, docket number, and a findings of violation of order and for compliance for repeated flow violations due to the continued overcapacity situation at the Rockland Sewer Treatment Facility and Sewer System. This is the second such order for the same repeated capacity problem originally stated, issued to the town on September 29, 2006, administrative order, docket number. Failure to comply with the most recent order and the contained conditions is not an option. Condition 3 from the 2020 letter from the Board of Sewer Commissioners to the ZBA states, the proposed connection, when performed, shall be completed at the applicant's cost and expense and must be in compliance with the rules and regulations of the Town of Rockland Sewer Commission in effect at the time of the approval of the proposed project by the Board of Appeals. At the time of the applicant's hearing before the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners on September 29, 2020, it was overlooked by the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners at the time that according to regulations of the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection and the United States Environmental Protection Agency, as well as the conditions stated in the Town of Rockland Sewer Ordinance of 2011 on page 15, section 2.4, new sewer and sewer connections, subsection 4E, that sewer construction in a zone 1 of a public water supply well or a zone A of a public surface water supply is prohibited except to eliminate any existing pollution problems. We also want to point out clearly that in section 5 of the Town of Rockland Sewer Mass Ordinance, Use Ordinance of 2011, on page 43, section 5.1, that an individual wastewater discharge permit shall be issued for a specific period of time not to exceed 2 years from the effective date of that permit. It is also the opinion and understanding that your board, the ZBA, has twice informed the applicant they have had to come back to sewer and water for final approvals. They have yet to apply for a sewer hearing on that directive from your board. Based on the most recent administrative order, the findings of violation and compliance order, regulations contained in the sewer use ordinance of 2011, specifically 2.4, section 4E, and section 5.1 of prior approvals not being granted, prior approvals granted to the applicant are valid for no longer than 2 years. We're now considering this void and no longer binding. Due to the strain on the Rockland wastewater treatment system and lack of capacity to deal with the high flows and to comply with the administrative order originally issued in 2006, the Board of Sewer Commissioners has placed a strict moratorium on new connections to the Rockland sewer system effective July 1st, 2021. Due to the new administrative compliance order, the moratorium, the lack of existing capacity to remove significant I&I from the system, we had to establish a waiting list for new connections. Currently, there are 2 projects pending on the pending list, and there are several waiting for a hearing. Once the applicant for 0 Pond Street has received all necessary approvals from the Town of Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals, they are welcome to request a new hearing with the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners and to reapply for possible connection to the Rockland sewer system with conditions subject to all fees, terms, and capacity limitations that exist at the time of the new application date. And if approved, the project will be assigned a position on the new connection waiting list. Respectfully, Charles Hession, Chairman, Rockland Board of Commissioners. I just think it's necessary for us to issue that there were a lot of things outstanding that were not mentioned at that time, being a 2-year warranty. 2-year warranty, excuse me, expiration limit, and plus the second EPA administrative order. So we can bounce that right back to the zoning board of appeals and say, John Nickel, Pontius Pilate, we wash our hands of it. I have not run that by Galvin, but I want to let you know that it's coming, and I will run that by Galvin for approval to send. So,
Do you want a motion?
I don't want a motion. I don't want a motion, just letting you know that I think it's time we clarify the sewer department's position with the zoning board of appeals. There was things overlooked at that hearing that need to be brought up. And you know what, let them deal with it. If they're gonna approve it, let them come back to us. If they're not gonna approve it, let them take a stand.
What's water safe?
Okay, so that's that.
As for outstanding projects, do we have any information on Beechwood?
Beechwood, I'm also notified that them to come in, I have a letter that I'm drafting now to them to come in as well in April to let us know what the status is. Beechwood's permit was originally issued in 2010 for X amount of units. They only developed Y amount of units. I'm saying that because I don't know how many were developed, how many were not developed. They came back to the board in late 2019 to advise us that things were tied up in probate court, I think it was, and that they wanted to keep the project open. But I'm gonna tell them that if you don't have firm plans for
Well,
development.
As of now, their permit is expired, it's been more than 2 years. So if they wanna come in and ask for a new permit.
Well, what I'm gonna do is I would also explain to them the same I'd give them to 365.
Yes,
They have,
Same
we'll
rules.
grant it one more year with the current moratorium conditions, but they're subject to the new fines,
and
new fees. I don't want to.
with fees, I know in the past, we've always applied the fees that were in effect at the time of the application. And
Right,
I think it might be beneficial for us to change it and apply the fees that are in effect at the time of approval.
right, correct. That's exactly what I want to get through today.
Okay.
So, that's where we stand on, and I know I'm gonna hear several factors today from a lot of people. He's done. Okay, let me just get back, let me see. Oh, single conflict.
I'll file like I do.
Yeah. Let me see now. How can I lose? Okay. Zoning Board of Appeals. I had it here a couple seconds ago, and that was my,
What was that?
this was right here. Where permit, Beechwood repair.
Oh, yeah.
Back on the.
Beechwood, Beach Street.
Beach Street. Back on the, whatever, where we had that deluge in the override, representatives from Veolia noticed water bubbling out of a manhole cover up over Beach Hill in the 614 Beach Street range. It's just over the crest of the hill and around the bend. Dandel was notified to take a look at it. They tested the water came up, tested it, and indicated that it was a sewer issue. What they did is they did a quick patchwork around it, and that street's gonna be paved again in the spring. So rather than do all the digging and have you work now, they decided to put off the spring. I received a quote from Dandel through Dave Taylor that the total job, what appears to be in the $30,000 range. No, $24,000 job total. That is standard repair work for the sewer department in this situation. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve that, it has to be done.
Has to be done, yeah. I mean, that's gonna fall under repair and maintenance.
Right,
We don't have to vote on that, do we?
yes, we do, because it's $24,000.
I'll make a second.
I have a motion to accept the bill dated February 15, 2023 from Dan Dell for $24,000 to repair Beach Street manhole for a
Second?
sewer bucket. I have a second. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
Mr. Hessian is a yes. I'll sign that now.
The work has the work been done?
No, what they did is they just did a quick French drain around it.
I think it's still leaking out there.
It is, in high water. Now, to bring up, while we're talking about this, I received a phone call yesterday morning that a similar incident happened on corner of Howard and Market Street behind the old Tedeschi offices for a sewer overflow. I looked down, I went down, took a look, I could see water, deed was coming up, not heavy. I had a representative, Violi, had come down to take a look at it, and I called Mike Hoadley, to get on and also take a look at it. He couldn't get it to it later in the afternoon. Good news, the pressure in the head pushed the blockage through, so there was no required repair. So this is just, the only reason I bring that up is to show you that these things do occur.
And right now, we have a balance in our repair and maintenance fund of 58,000.
That's for 2023,
Yes,
okay,
that's what this Beach Street would go against.
okay. Okay, the approval of Green Mountain Piping. That is a contract to repair the INI, to remove hopefully around 120,000 gallons of INI that was previously located in the SSES study conducted by AECOM. AECOM indicated there was 220,000 gallons to come out. When you put the realistic engineering numbers to it, they failed. Weston Sampson and Wright Pierce concurred that realistically we'll probably only get 119,000 gallons out of that. So that work is for $260,260. The contract was awarded to Green Mountain Piping of Bethel, Vermont. And we have a kickoff meeting between myself, Weston Sampson and Green Mountain and Veolia, Rick, on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. They didn't want to tie it up at an open public meeting, was the only reason you guys were not included on that. All we were going to be doing is I'm going to be issuing them the notice of intent, notice to execute the contract, and try to develop some kind of a timeline, which I will share with you immediately after that meeting via email. To me, there's no reason why a lot of that work on the manholes cannot take place the way this spring is. Some of the work we may have to delay, when we get to the piping, may have to be delayed due to the high water levels, the high volumes going through these pipes. If you came in today, you noticed the Godwins were running. What I checked on was that the pressure on the headworks is so high, the blankets that scrapes out the wipes, the tissues, the have you, is getting so high that it's forcing the initial first clarifier to back up. So they're trying to take the pressure off of that, which is a good move to do, because the flow, and realistically, what those are going, and it's not a true radiant flow because it's taken out of the headwork, is around 2.2 million. That thing we have not been below 3 million or 2.8 million since January. So that is the only reason those Godwins are running. Because the first thing I saw when I came in, I'm going, what now? So that is the approval for Green Mountain. So please, before you leave, where you have to sign is at the yellow. You just put your John Henry's, and I'd like it in blood. Now we get rid of that now.
Yeah.
Of all of them?
Of all 4 copies.
One per
One set is each for each one.
bundle, one signature per bundle.
Yeah. The reason all these other tabs, just so you know, is I had to go in and put the execution date in of March 7th. This is when you signed?
So that,
That comes.
all right, hold on. Okay, that's to you. Sign that. That's not done. That's to you.
I think I have a pen in my car truck too. I should have brought it in.
He still sure as everyone else has.
You should just go up there and steal it. This one's
All right, that one's
done.
done. Okay.
Stay in a white guy?
Trying to.
That one is done.
I should steal one after you be assigned it. But there's a lot of construction going on Pond Street, I see.
On Pond Street?
Oh, yeah.
I got a dumpster in my.
Oh.
I
Can
got
I
a
use
scarlet letter on the door.
Be careful of
It was
dumpsters.
quite specific about
I mean,
what
be
to go
careful
in
of
there.
dumpsters, you're darn right, because I found, and I live in a quiet neighborhood, I found a TV in mine one time, when we were doing one of those cleanouts.
Now, does one of these contracts stay?
One of these will say here, however, all 4 copies have got to go up to town hall for,
That's right. so
Accountant's
other people
signature.
have to sign it, yeah. We'll talk about that at some point.
So these
Okay,
ones
so
are
they're all done.
on the next bed.
that's that off of that. And again, what I will be doing is the kickoff meeting will be Thursday again, just to execute the contract, notify them and get a schedule going with Green Mountain. What I would like to do is get the contract for the year 1 I&I monitoring done so we can piggyback that as we go along. It would save us a lot of money not opening up streets if we can follow through with that.
And the oversight is all
The
set.
oversight is all set. Now, one other thing that came to my attention this week was that I received an email from Dave Taylor yesterday regarding work that's gonna be done up at the new elementary school in the soccer field that Gary was up watching. I have concerns on the flows coming out of that project, so I've got Gary, I asked Gary to videotape the flows, trying to ascertain a quantity or volume. Best I know of, we were told that 130,000 gallons came out, if you recall that when they were building it.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that that's out. If not, when we do this year 1 monitoring, Plain Street, Water Street, and John Burke has historically been a high flow area, so I want to make sure we get monitors, flow meters on that area. There was one other thing that did come up. It's not on here on the agenda, but it bears, this is gonna come under the subject of, hey, I wanna tell you anyway. We had an issue by the EPA on the CWMP. When they issued the administrative order on the violations, there was a date that the CWMP had to have public comment by April 30th of this year. We are well on track to finalizing that. However, to have a realistic time frame to digest that document is going to be very cumbersome. That document is going to be about 3 inches thick. There's going to be a lot of tables to go over. Being a type A engineer that I am, I like to verify calculations. It's just a very bad flaw, and I shouldn't do that. I should rely on people that are higher, but I've always been in the habit of verifying the flow so I fully understand a document like that. So the issue came up from Adam of Wright Pierce that I had him contact Dave Turn. Now, we can meet the deadline for the final draft internally in our review, but we're not going to meet the deadline for the public comment. Ideally, what should happen is that the document should have time for review by us, present to the public, get comments, contain that in the document, and send that into the EPA. So realistically, we're going to be 1 month late through no fault of our own. We missed that at the original original, we should have included that in the first notification to the EPA, but we didn't pick up on it. No one picked up on it. So that is where that stands now, and if I have that email, I'd like to read that into the record. See if he's got it. I spoke with Dave Turner of the EPA, and he asked for a couple of things. He wanted to know the original information given to the EPA about the schedule. He didn't have any correspondence on this, and will I be able to locate it? He had a couple of questions on the phase one. Does Rockland have flow meters on lines coming from Abington? Or do they have a detail of the actual flows? The answer is no. Rectifying that through the year one monitoring lines will be tabbed with meters coming from Abington. And the page 218 of the phase one report seems to indicate that in the design year 2025, 900,000 gallons will be coming from Abington. Abington is not getting more than 100,000 gallons, so I don't know, have any idea where they got that number, and I have to look into that. That was my last response to him. He's going to be sending me a response that he's going to be giving Dave Turner at that. But Abington agreement is to be worked on shortly, and they will not be receiving more than 100,000 gallons a day. We simply don't have the capacity to do anything near that.
Can you forward that email so
Yes,
I
I
can
will.
get it in the minutes?
Yes, I will. I will forward you everything.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are you gonna put a member down the road from Abington on this commission?
No.
Okay, so I'm just asking for one department.
No, okay, let me tell you what,
It's a good question.
let me get to that later on.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you that, what I took on my own initiative. Okay, we did the Green Mountain. Before we go into fees, Dan just brought subject up. What I mentioned to Crystal Cameron, who was the superintendent of water, down the road, if she thought it would be beneficial to have a joint meeting with the Board of Water Commissioners and the Rockland Sewer Commissioners, since we're both facing a lot of the same issues, facing, versus capacity and development and all that, not to decide on anything, not to come out with a joint action or anything, but just to exchange ideas of how we're dealing with, how they're dealing with it. I think it would be beneficial to both parties. She emailed back to me, and let me read that to you for the record. Crystal, this is from Crystal. Hi Chuck, I plan on present your email to the board at their next meeting. In the meantime, I spoke to a couple of the members. They suggested that you provide extra details you might want to add to your email so they can go over it at the meeting and make decisions with the full board. They've offered to put me on the agenda if I want to come and talk to them about it on 3/14/23. That's next week, I think. I can let you know the decision after that meeting should you decide that the email outline should be sufficient. Here is the email I sent to Crystal, and that was dated Saturday, March 4th. Obviously, I was bored. I said, hi Crystal, I was wondering if your Board of Water Commissioners would like to set up a joint meeting with the Rockland Sewer Commissioners. I would think it beneficial for both groups to discuss mutual concerns such as overall capacity, future thoughts of potential development and programs each has in place. I was thinking that we could hold an open public meeting at the sewer department, but state that this one meeting, there'd be no public comment, just a working session between our two groups. If you're not interested, that's okay. This is just a thought. Let me know what you think. Regards, moi. I just thought we're both facing the same issues, and I don't think it could hurt to have open communication. And it's not something that has to happen right away. We've got a full boat in front of us. But I see that cutting down that maybe before the Zoom meetings end, that may not be a bad Zoom meeting to hold an open public meeting some night, if they want to.
Yeah. Well, communication's always a good thing.
Yeah,
Just,
I didn't see any harm in it. And again, that was
we're
just,
facing the same resource limitations, so
yeah.
can't hurt.
speaking of meetings, I might as well go on to the end of it. We spoke about this last time about the Zoom meetings being lifted, and so far I have seen nothing definitive on that. And after the dust settles with the rate study, I'd like to put up this meeting for this probably the following week from the sewer commissioners that the governor has lifted the COVID emergency restriction at all public open meetings. All public open meetings must be available to the public per the open meeting law. Therefore, effective April 1st, per the open meeting law, all public meetings will be held in person. The sewer department and town residents have several matters facing them, all of which have significant financial impact to you, the users of the town sewer system. Starting this year, the issues will include such things as increasing the user rates for the long-term future, a major upgrade to the wastewater facility starting next year, and the cost measures that must be taken to adhere to the EPA's administrative order of 2022. However, the sewer commissioners will continue to record their meetings. The sewer commissioner is asking you, the residents, to participating in making those financial choices, and as always, to voice your opinions at our meeting. The Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners is asking for public input to help select our meeting times. We want to accommodate those who work and wish to attend our meetings after April 1st. Those meetings will be conducted at the Rockland Wastewater Treatment Facility. Currently, we meet on the third Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. However, if we had different, we'd be willing to change it to late afternoon, say at 4 p.m. But there must be significant input, so here's the choice for the following times. Daytime 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. or evenings at 7 p.m. to 8:30. If you wish to participate in the selection of a meeting time, you could notify one of the commissioners or email your choice to me, Chuck Hession, at blah, 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 my email. You must include your name and address for the record. Thank you, Chuck, Dan, and Sherry. What I was thinking of doing is putting this out after Thursday night's meeting, rather than just bomb everybody with a ton of
it's too
stuff
much.
coming at us.
No, that's good.
Okay, so that's that. I&I development fees. What I asked the board to do was to consider a proposal I made to add an engineering and I&I removal fee to our new permit constructions. For those of you who didn't attend that meeting last week, the engineering fee and I&I removal cost, I calculated out to what the sewer department has actually spent to go after I&I this year. I looked at the engineering costs for ACOM to do the original SSES study, that was $300,000. I looked at the Weston Sampson bid preparation for the Green Mountain pipe, to go out to bid, that Green Mountain won. That bid for Green Sampson was $30,000. Green Mountain's piping again was $260,260. I looked at the Weston Sampson I&I oversight of the remediation work to make sure that what we requested is actually being done. That was $49,000. I also included the year one monitoring costs, which we anticipate are going to be $150,000. If I added up all those fees, the remedial work for those tasks, to remove 119,350 gallons of predictable I&I was $789,260. If I divided that by the 119,350 gallons removed, it comes out to $6.61, which is our actual cost to remove I&I. It's the engineering per gallon of I&I. What I am proposing to do when we assess a fee, we assess a $20 gallon on fee on the actual use. That I'm saying we could go into a maintenance fee, or hold on, whatever we want to name that, or it could be used to go into the remediation fee as well. But I'm saying we change the name of that to a sewer maintenance fee.
That's the $20 per gallon.
That's a $20 per gallon, just to go into general maintenance fee. The engineering fee and then the I&I removal cost, I think, should be based on the 11-to-1 ratio that we assess per the EPA order to remove, to be in compliance. And that fee should go on as a $6.61, because that's what it's actually costing the town of Rockland and this board to remove the INI. So is there any further discussion on that before I open it for a motion?
Do we need to do it as a public hearing, or can we just vote?
We can vote on it and disclose it in a public meeting.
Okay.
This, to me, is a necessity that should have been done years ago. I mean, we were struggling with it, and the changeover in the board, we had to deal with things as they occurred. We had to take some kind of logical step to deal with some of the things, matters we had to. This was by no means a low priority, but we had to put things in perspective of where it falls in to be implemented. I think we're at that point now.
I'd like to add to the discussion that we're required to remove 11 gallons per every new
One,
gallon
right.
added to the system. We're required to do that, and the current fee structure does not pay the cost of us doing that.
It never has.
And it never has. So we've been digging a hole since,
And again, to dig out of that hole for keeping up with this antiquity of a system, and the general repairs, they were taking the INI money and using it for
and keeping the
repairs
facility afloat.
and keep the facility running, but we have to get away from that.
So,
Now, there's another discussion to take place, and that I think the residents should be aware of in Sherry, which is a bomb, probably to her, that if we vote approval on this, I deliberately did not include this on the rate study. These fees would have a radical impact on the study.
for the good.
I did not want to deter or derail the progress of Weston Sampson to getting that draft study done, which is going to be presented this Thursday night at 7 p.m. I think for the first couple of years, till we get back on our feet, I do not think this fee should be entered into consideration for the rate study. The goal that I gave them initially to the rate study is that, let's face it, we've been operating in the red. There's no getting around that. We're gonna have some big ticket items hit us up front. So the goal that they were given, the charge that they were given, was to build up as much upfront cash reserves as possible so we could deal with this. And the reason I said it's not only to deal, and I'll be going into this Thursday night, it was not only to deal with the upgrade to facility. That upfront cash reserve is going to be needed to deal with emergencies that come up, like the generator, that maybe ARPA funds would not be available, but we still have to deal with that. So,
So if I understand you, the rate study does include.
does not
But
include
it does
this.
include the cost of removing INI, but it does not include a fee increase to
It
cover that
includes the cost of INI as we've been going on,
as it is now.
as it stands now. It includes the rate increase that we applied.
And that rate study is going to affect residential user fees.
It's going to prevent everyone's user fees.
Yep. So, okay.
Now, with what we're looking at is and we'll throw this open for discussion with Frank, because he would be the best to tell this. If we start raking, because we're gonna be talking a significant amount of money. But we're also talking about a limited amount of capacity that we have to give. So it may look like a lot on paper for a couple of projects that we have. In the long run, it's not gonna come to bearing on the facility. Because we may say we're gonna get rid of 119,000 gallons of INI now, but I guarantee you, we're gonna find more, and that INI is gonna continue to happen. This past heavy, wet spring, for engineering wise, through velocity alone, has put quite a strain on any fractures that might have existed in those pipes that weren't contributing a lot of INI when the ACOM study was done, but due to that stress, it has to have had an increase now. Again, through July, from December to today, I've yet to see that flow meter below 2.8 million gallons a day. Are we gonna pick up some capacity for new users? Yeah, but I think that's gonna be just to be able to handle what we have on the waiting list. And I have to tell you, I do not think it's gonna be able to accommodate any large users.
Remains to be seen, absolutely.
So,
Back
you know,
to
that's
the
my
fees
opinion.
though, what we're saying is that we're going to charge new connections the cost to remove the INI.
Right.
And the rate study is also covering the cost to remove INI.
It's cost,
They're different INIs?
no, it's
Because
it's
still-
looking at the INI
it's
from
kinda
a
collecting
previous
it
way of doing
twice.
business.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is that we're not collecting twice for the same
No, we are
INI.
not collecting twice for the same thing.
That's what I'm trying to.
We're not collecting twice for the same thing because we've
Okay.
never created this fee.
Yep.
Anything we,
What's in the rate study is what we're doing now.
correct.
The increase in the fees is what we anticipate in the future.
So that's like $20
Done.
more.
No, the $20 will still be assessed. I'm saying leave the permit fee, the development fee of 8,000 gallons a unit fee, that's $8,000 a unit fee. I'm saying leave the permit fee of $150 fee as is. I'm saying for today,
Okay.
just for today, leave it $20 a gallon for sewer
So
remediation
we
fee.
look
That
at-
will you put to a maintenance fee.
So we'd be looking at it almost every year.
So we're gonna be looking at it every, that's something that should be done every year. Because the INI removal is gonna change every year because look at the way inflation, materials, COVID, what have you, it's gonna be affected. That $6.61, whatever board is sitting here in the future has to discipline themselves that they have to look at that every April and ascertain what the rate's gonna be for the next fiscal year. They have to do that.
Because the cost is gonna change.
Cost is gonna change.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, I would like, we have people waiting for connection on a waiting list, that we gave them a rough study of what it would be, but those fees are not guaranteed to the permit's approval. I'm saying we implement this engineering fee and INI removal cost effective April 1st of this year. We gain 1 quarter, which is nothing.
All right. Let me make the motion, because
We gonna vote on this?
Huh?
You gonna vote on it?
I think we have to vote on that.
let me make the motion, because I'm gonna spell it out. So I make a motion to apply new fees effective April 1st, 2023, whereby the $20 current INI will be reapportioned as a
I saved
repair
you
and
an effort.
maintenance.
How about
Aren't
you?
you the best?
Sherry, why don't you read that in, see if it's acceptable?
The motion is made effective April 1st, 2023. Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners vote to add new permit connection fees, a category called engineering and INI removal fee. And this fee will be used to cover the actual cost of locating and removing infiltration and inflow for new connections to the Rockland sewer system. And the fee will be based on actual costs incurred by the sewer department to accomplish the INI removal requirement. The fee will cover the EPA order to remove 11 gallons of INI for every 1 gallon added to the system. The established fee as of April 1st, 2023 will be $6.61 per gallon, based on an 11-to-1 removal ratio. Furthermore, the $20 currently assessed as INI will be reapportioned as repair and maintenance.
Did I add that?
No. The fee will be applied to all applications requesting a hearing for connection to the sewer system as of April 1st.
I second it.
Thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
Ms. Hester, yes, that is unanimous. So effective April 1st, everyone from that date on that applies for a hearing will be quoted an I&I engineering fee and removal fee based on actual costs. What I'd also like to do is consider writing in a moratorium into the regulations, into the rules and regulations, and the sewer use ordinance, a couple of things. That any existing moratorium conditions be revisited every April and September of each fiscal year. And that all sewer connection
In a moratorium now?
that's in the moratorium now, but it's not,
Okay.
it's only written in the moratorium, but I
Yeah.
want it in the ordinance and rules and regs.
Okay.
I'd also like to make a motion that we include wording in the ordinance and rules and regulations that all fees for the fiscal year must be established by April at the end of April of the previous calendar year. How can I word that? All fees for the new calendar year
Do you
must
want to
be.
limit yourself to that? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
What I'm trying to do is, instead of dealing with fees in the middle of a fiscal year like we've been doing,
Mhm.
come up with some kind of organization that we deal with it, so it's ready July 1.
That should just be part of the budget process.
Okay, so we can just,
Just put it
answer
down.
amongst that himself, but
Yep.
when Dan, Sherry, and Chuck are gone, I think
Yeah.
there should be something in writing that people, not a force, but
Yep.
we're trying to
Rules
come up
and
with some
regs.
kind of best management practices
That's
manual.
yeah, that's a rules and regulations type,
Okay,
rather than ordinance.
okay. I thank you very much for your vote for approval on that. I don't think new people will like
Just
that.
say fees reviewed.
Try to keep the cost away from the people we have.
Right. And trying to keep the department
Well,
afloat, yeah.
What we're trying to do is, and I'm gonna go into it now with what the next section with the rate study is, we've been digging out of a hole. And when, I think for the first time, Rockland has got a plan for the sewer department. I really do, and we have a long-term plan, not just this year or next year. And I think that's gonna be very evident at the rate study meeting Thursday night. Now, what I've done also is I've prepared a statement I'd like to read before the rate study begins Thursday. But I'd also like to put this out on Facebook and the town website tomorrow night, so people who can't attend the meeting, understand why we're having that. So, this is what I'd like to put up. This is gonna be the Commissioner's opening statement for the rate study. The rate study. This will be the first time the commissioners or anyone has had the opportunity to hear the final draft of the rate study in its entirety. And I want to repeat, it's a draft rate study. This document will be circulated through town hall and town accountant for their review and their comments before it is finalized. I want everyone to remember that the sewer department does not receive any tax dollars. It's funded solely by the user fees they collect from the users and residents and new connection fees to the sewer department. I want to give some background on why this was required. To the best of anyone's knowledge, the sewer department has never had a concrete plan in place to look at the long-term outlook for the department when you take into consideration the facility, the infrastructure, or the town's projected growth. We had a very narrow month-to-month approach on this. There's many reasons for the rate study, and this was first discussed in late 2020. For us, I was overruled. But I want to give you some background information. Since 2013, the sewer department has lost over $1 million in just user rates by failing to increase the fees to keep pace with the basic budget needs as it pertains to keeping up with the antiquated equipment, the infrastructure, and the required repairs and replacements. They have also failed to go up in fees that are charged to the developers for connection to the sewer system since 2004. Instead, they appeared to be using those development fees, which are supposed to go to inflow and infiltration, I&I removal, to backfill those budget shortfalls and in order to keep the equipment functioning. With the exception of the rate study, the following studies were supposed to have been conducted in 2007 to comply with the EPA administrative order that was issued in 2006. money, $100,000 was approved in Article 56 in 2000 town meeting for both the facility study and the CWMP, but the fees were spent elsewhere and never revisited. This is the action taken currently. The current Board of Commissioners had to get a handle on exactly where we were financially, and we soon realized that if we did not increase the rates dramatically and right away, the financial situation would have spiraled out of control. So in January of this year, we increased our user rates by 25%. But before we could get into the position of conducting the rate study, a stark reality check had to be done for both the commission and the board, before the board and the residents. And this was my call again. Several things had to take place in specific order to establish an intelligent baseline for the entire situation, to eliminate any guesswork on this rate study, on exactly what needed to be done. The commission first had to find out exactly what shape the wastewater treatment was in. So in 2019, we contracted with Wright Pierce to conduct a very comprehensive wastewater facility evaluation. The results came back in 2020, and a state study bluntly indicated that the 63-year-old facility was way past due and the town needed an immediate upgrade that would cost $49.2 million to complete. This study and the associated costs did not include any of the 13 pump stations or the 55 miles of infrastructure pipeline. With COVID, the dramatic price increase in raw material, the skilled labor shortage plus inflation, today those estimated costs are in the vicinity of close to $75 million. The longer we wait or delay on this project, the cost increase will be more. The current Board of Commissioners had to get a handle on exactly where we were financially and realize that if the town did not increase the rates dramatically and right away, the financial situation again would have spiraled out of control. So that was the reason for the dramatic rate increase of 25% in January. Now, any upgrade to facility will not increase our capacity, which is fixed by permit at 2.5 million gallons per day. It will only allow us to continue processing what we have today. The second step after the facility study was for Wright Pierce to conduct or piggyback the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, CWMP, which takes a lot of things into consideration. And I hope everyone understands this why now. This CWMP takes into consideration what shape the equipment is in, what are the facility's long-term needs, how can we keep up with the current flow demand, and what are the other needs, such as the infrastructure, the pump stations. Wright Pierce also looked at the town's projected growth, population growth, and its plans for development, and how that will impact the flow capacity of the facility. They spoke with every department in town to get their input. They took all of this information to try and figure out how much all of this, along with the everyday maintenance requirements, will cost the residents. Pause. The CWMP is intended to project those cost requirements over the next 10, 15, and 30 years, and it tries to estimate the associated costs and make its recommendations to satisfy these needs. These reports are due the end of next month at the end of April. The second EPA administrative compliance order that was issued in June of 2022 and the conditions contained in that order have only heightened the urgency of those needs. Now the rate study. This is where the rate study had to come into play. It takes all the information from the facility study, the CWMP. It includes a long-term capital plan, the administrative orders, the town's projected population growth and development growth, and then tells us how can we pay for those requirements over the next 10, 15, and 30 years. I want to briefly explain the part of the commissioners and Weston Sampson's approach and the reason for doing this. The rate study, this is probably why you saw that big curve, and this is what I gave them, that the rate study was designed to bolster our much needed retained earnings or upfront cash reserves because of both our short-term needs in the case of major equipment failure and our long-term needs for upgrades. but it was also designed to minimize the impact to the residents as much as possible. The rate study draft will be posted on the department website Monday if anyone wishes to see it. So what I'd like to do is post this to give everyone a little bit to read. I'm gonna read it again into the record Thursday night. But I think people have to understand that this was not something that we could have rushed into. This was really 3 years in the making. To do a rate study, you have to have an intelligent idea of where you are. We never did. With the facility study, we had a rough idea. The comprehensive wastewater management plan tells you how to get the rate study, but it also looked at a lot of other stuff, which is a part 3, 2, and 3 of the comprehensive plan. It calls in the other departments in town that looks at your population. It just doesn't look at, us. So,
That's good, it gives you a nice overview of what this is.
yeah, I mean, I think it does. I mean, it's wordy, it's lengthy. Jack, do you agree with that sitting needed, or do you think it's?
I agree, I have questions on it, but I'll talk to you later about it.
Okay. The draft rate study, again, no one has seen it. The final, we'll pick that numbers, everyone's had, hearsay. And I thought it'd be good for the board to get a whack at the same time as the residents are getting that whack. Thursday night, I'll allow us they're gonna try to get us the presentation and a draft of what they're appeared before we meet Thursday. It'll give us a chance to see where we are. We will ask our questions first.
Maybe the meeting's gonna be here.
It's gonna be on Zoom, because I'm trying to get as many people as I can involved. I've advertised it on Zoom, on Facebook and what have you, and on the department website. After we have a chance to ask our questions, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it over to the public, how they have the different faces on the screen. I'm gonna go left to right and identify each resident. Do you wanna speak? If they don't, fine. If they do, I want them, you're gonna have to give your name, your address for the record,
Standard.
and then we'll just go on. When everyone's had a chance, in case there's any late arrivals, I'm gonna go again and say, in closing, do you have any? Now, what Weston Sampson will do was we'll take those comments and put it into a final draft rate study. Because I want questions listed at the end of that.
Public comment.
So everyone will have the chance, someone can say that we had blind.
It's gonna be like the NWA, the NWRA, 25, 30 years ago, when they had to raise the rates for out there in Deer Island. That's how they used to do it overnight.
And
And like I said, I looked around,
They just changed them, yeah,
Yeah, we're trying to bring it on gradually.
correct.
I mean, when they did that, it was just a shock to everybody.
well, I did some surveys around town, and I have got my own. I'm not even gonna tell you what I think the increase will be. What I'm trying to do is fix rate increases for at least 5 years. Now, this rate study again goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years out. But rest assured, we're gonna be getting this rate study. A lot is gonna happen in the next year. I've already requested that they give us a change of scope of work to the rate study to include a review next year, and then again in 3 years. So I'll be expecting that this week. But I think that'd be the best bet. I didn't want to get into a rate study and then with what I'm anticipating to be a very dynamic 3 to 5 years, come back and say, oops, or geez, we over. And the good thing is as we release some more capacity, get some more of these engineering fees, that rate study could drop the percentages.
Yes.
I have a percentage in my mind that I think is right now with the draft that it's going to be fixed at. I'm not surprised, but I'm very grateful that we went up to 25%.
I think some people think we should go higher, but
Yeah, well, I think even if we go higher, it's going to put us in the ballpark.
Yes.
But I think, well, hopefully we'll show an upswing in upfront cash reserves. What I'm hoping is the graph shows that upfront cash reserve, the middling down, but at the end of this 15, 20, 30 years, we're still breaking even.
everything's even and we've made all
Right,
the
everything's
upgrades we
even, we've
need.
done the upgrade,
Yeah.
and if we get more grants, again, that rate could come down, which would be why we pursue that, but I wanted to go into this rate study, not anticipating grants, not anticipating any help. And if it had to come on user rates, it's a worst case scenario. And again, we can modify this, we'll have a chance to revisit it at the end of FY '24, and then again at the, I think was at the FY '27.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
So, I'm about talked out, man. Future meetings and Zooms, we did that. You want to see if Robin wants to come in? Or?
We can do that. We do need to talk about the asset management grant.
Okay, let's talk about the asset management grant.
Okay.
Again, that is not on the agenda. It was previously.
Well, it's old business. Because it's unresolved on our old
Okay.
business.
I received an email from Dave. I believe Sherry and Dan, you both received an email on the,
He would like to make the application by March 10th.
right, and he wants a letter from us committing to
So-
it.
So I had asked Dave, my concern is if we can meet the requirements that we're going to need to do this. And I asked him specifically about the in-kind, which is a laborer from the sewer department. And his response was, the document that he gave us notes that in-kind services commit to a laborer from the sewer department for 798 hours.
Or
So,
contract labor.
right, some labor from the sewer department. And he said it would typically be an individual who would help environmental partners in the field.
Right.
And then once closer to doing the work, there would be a meeting to go over what's covered.
With that, I discussed that with Frank, who was doing the follow-up. And that follow-up includes GIS mapping. That can work as in-kind services because they are
But
contracted.
this is GIS mapping.
Yeah, but but again, that's why it's gonna fall into that, because they will be doing some of that. They're gonna be creating another layer.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank is in Ruston Sampson will be a contractor hired by the sewer department. So I see no reason why we can't meet that.
Okay. It does require $107,500 up front to participate. So the natural question is, where is that money going to come from? Does this qualify as I&I? I don't think it does. It's really GIS
Well, tentatively,
services.
the I&I budget, the way it is, has been used lackadaisically for anything, a mix of everything. I would say we transfer some funds out of I&I if we have to, and see if we can tag along.
So,
But before we do
You know-
that, I wanna keep in mind that we are gonna be we're running a little bit of an override on ARPA for the boiler. I don't know.
right,
You
we're
guys,
running,
Jennifer.
yes, we're running, yeah, we're running kind of close on everything right now. I think, I've got a question into Jen on using funds from the I&I account. I'd set it aside for the oversight of the I&I rehab work, and I've asked Jen if we can put that under ARPA.
You're talking
Because
for
that
Weston Sampson?
Yeah, because that would free up that
Not
account.
not for that.
So, not for this
Not
asset
for the boiler.
management. No, the asset management. So,
Now,
That, you're gonna have to ask her.
yeah, I've got the question out there, I don't know if we can or not. But if does this or does this not qualify as I&I?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, we gotta
Yeah,
be
we've
careful with the boiler because we are under a 6-month window deadline to get that
Yes.
up and running, and I don't
Yes.
think we're gonna meet that.
So,
So that's gonna mean more additional fees to pay for,
right,
additional
So-
fees to pay for the oil, for the standby boiler.
you know,
But I don't think in the warmer weather that'll be required. So it may wash out, it may not, but I would not
so we
hit
can,
anything to do with the.
for the 107,000, we can just take it out of our development fees account, which is 166.
Do, because I think as we go with these other fees, I think we'll catch up.
Okay.
So you have to make a
So-
motion.
Motion to use our development fees account from past projects paid. Motion to use those fees to cover the upfront costs for the asset management grant.
I'll second that motion.
I'll make
Do I
that
have,
motion.
do I have the motion, do I have a vote of approval? Mr. DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes,
And Ms. Hessian, yes, that's unanimous.
all right, I will draft a letter to Dave Taylor and let him know we're good. We
Okay.
will proceed.
Please, on that, as a courtesy, when you draft that letter and send the email, CC Frank and Weston Sampson.
Will do.
And I will let him know that that's coming, that we intend to use in-kind services from the 49,000 INI monitoring and the metering.
From the,
Contract. From the 49,000 oversight, hours from that, and as well as hours from the,
annual control.
right, 1-year INI control plan.
We will need to talk to environmental partners to make sure that,
Let's get that all squared away with Jen and Frank first, and then we'll
okay.
drag
Well, we need to make
Frank
sure that
involved.
that work will qualify as their in-kind services. I feel like there's a timing disconnect, that we're going to start that before the asset management grant starts. So that.
My
might be-
guesstimate as far as the INI work is probably gonna be April 1st to start.
Okay. And according
Be a couple of
to
weeks.
Dave, the notice to proceed.
Let's say April 15th,
Could
what
be
you told me.
June. Notice to proceed is granted by December of this year, so no, December of 2023 is the last to notice of proceed. So there's just a timing
Yeah,
disconnect.
work that out and,
That's all. There's a timing disconnect.
yeah.
All right. So what I'm saying is it might put us on the hook down the line, but.
Well, whatever, we'll deal with it. We've dealt with everything else that's come our way. There's one more they're not challenges, they're opportunities.
That's right.
That's what I used to tell my engineering
That's right.
staff.
Can I ask another question before we?
Sure.
Also under old business, we have an agreement with Veolia for $155,433 to perform non-routine services.
Yes. Now, what that is entailed on is that is going to be part of the sewer upgrade.
Okay.
That's gonna be part of the initial 2.4 million, 2.5 million. What I told Veolia is that I did not want to vote or move on that till I know how the Board of Selectmen will move on
Yes,
our request for the opera funds and to
yes.
float a bond for 1.5 million.
Okay, good answer. Okay, thank you.
It'd be best to move pretty fast, the interest rate's going back up again.
Yeah. Listen, I would have moved on that, I would have been tonight, but I was not happy the way the court team was proceeding as far as developing a narrative for the overall upgrade. Before we go into anything, I want all my i's dotted and t's crossed, and they just weren't at that point. I don't think the narrative is finished to the point that I would be comfortable presenting it to the Board of Selectmen.
Who's not laying the pipe out there, the stainless steel pipe?
We don't know yet. That contract's out, getting ready to go out to bid.
I mean, it seems like that's dragging their feet on it.
Well, they're not dragging their feet on it. That bid, the bid spec was received. It had to be, the piping had to be reviewed engineering wise. I didn't think it would be appropriate for me to use my engineering stamp on it. So we had Russ and Sampson look at it. They needed time to review the drawing. They have reviewed it. They're preparing the bid to go out to bid for the design work. I fully expect 3 bids. Those bids we should have by the end of next month. That's the goal. Which is why I said we're not gonna meet that 6-month deadline. That's gonna be at least a 3 to 4 month project. But all I can do is I can guarantee you, whoever gets that is not gonna get away with what happened with the boiler, because I'll have my spurs into them every day.
I don't blame you.
We gotta be done, because I'm talked out.
I think we're done. I have a new set of minutes for you to review for next week.
Okay. Dan, read them next week.
Okay.
Should we read them? You should have January 10, 12, and 19.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Some extra copies here.
really?
No, 10, 12, and 19,
No.
and
Oh.
there's 3.
No, dates, look at your dates,
Oh,
10, 12, and
okay,
19. So
okay.
you have to read all 3 of them.
Well, geez, now I'm going back to school.
Yeah, I know. But then,
You know, I wanna just tell you something, you know, the two of you, and for anyone out there that cares, is that I think the light at the end of the tunnel as far as our burgeoning workload right now. I mean, we had to get through the budget part of it. Everything that's gonna be coming up, I think, after the next month is really gonna be the month-to-month things we should be paying attention to. We had a ton of catch-up to do. And that order did not help us.
yeah, the order took a lot of time and attention, and
It's still.
we're gonna have to work on the next report. That's
Well, the
in
next
May.
report in May is in
It's
process
May.
of being
Should be,
prepared now.
should be a lot simpler.
It's a lot, gonna be a lot
Is
simpler.
something on Church Street coming up?
Church Street, project in the building?
The,
Old factory?
no, I haven't even heard that, I don't wanna think about it yet until I get with it. 23rd, we have 2 projects, Cary Street and,
I didn't know that.
and I forget the other
365.
one.
No,
Oh, it should be phone that
no,
after.
that's Cary Street is
Let's County Street.
I forget, well, let's
just coming.
Let's County.
let's get Ron, because she's gonna be bailing, unless she wants to do
Yeah.
it next week. Project committee, Veolia project management. If she wants to wait till next week, we could do it, or we could do it Thursday night. Yeah, I would say there's a lot going on. There is going to be.
Once you set this place rolling,
But I think we got a game plan. That's,
but like I say, the NWRA, there's a lot of people by shock.
EPA, no.
Oh, that's your people.
Yeah.
Hi.
All right, I have a couple of things. One of them is,
Oh, wait a minute, I got to.
I got a public records request, and it's huge. I'm actually going to contact Town Hall and ask for more time.
We got
Because,
one?
Public records request?
yeah, it's from Hancock Associates. They are surveyors, engineers, and scientists, and they're asking for all of the as-bills from Pond Street, all the way down Hingham Street, beyond Reservoir Park Drive, then to include Reservoir Park Drive over to Weymouth Street and a few addresses over there. So it's huge, it's at least,
Huge.
it's at least 40 addresses, but the issue, I think it's for the Mass Works grant, but I'm not sure.
Has to be.
But the problem is,
You can't do
a
that.
lot of these are in project files, which I'm not really familiar with, so I'm trying to work through that. and
Well,
get it-
why don't you table that for tomorrow morning? You and I sit down and talk about how you want to handle, how you're comfortable handling it.
Well, the way I've handled it so far is I went on the GIS system and I downloaded any that I had, which was probably only 7 or 8 out of the 40. And I worked with Christian from Veolia on that. So that was really helpful, but the other ones are in project files. I'm not really sure how to find those, so I might have to ask Gary to help me out.
All right, whatever you need.
So. It was crazy because I go through our system to find the addresses, and then I had to go onto Google Maps to identify what businesses they were, because the map that they gave me is just a,
That looked like a generic.
It just looks like.
That's all it
That's
is.
a Google map, yeah.
right, so we had to identify all of the buildings and the addresses, so it's been a little bit of a mess, and I'm gonna ask Gary to help me with the project files.
Sure, did I give you that invoice from Dandel?
I mean, this is really something a superintendent should be doing, but we have
Yes,
to respond because it's public records request.
If you want me to help you, I'll help you out tomorrow, just tell me what you want me to do.
Do you know how to find project files?
Yeah,
You do?
I can go through that, get Gary show me, refresh me, I'll do it.
Chuck says no, I don't have
So I'm looking for something I don't know.
Sherry, this is for you for today.
it. Thank you.
Then you had sent me a memo about the Abington flows, and it was
Yeah.
from Adam Higgins,
Yes, that was for
Which-
today.
which I responded to. I know you said something about flow meters for Abington, but Abington gives us a report every month from the Charles Street Station that they have over there, which records their flows. They also provide an INI report at the end of each fiscal year, which I responded and gave you a copy of that. We usually roll that into our annual INI report, but we didn't do it this year. Remember they
I
dropped
remember,
the
yeah, I remember
requirement?
that.
All right, and as far as billing, I supplied him with a copy of the bill that we provide to Abington, along with the instructions on how we arrive at these figures, which is based on the agreement that we have with Abington. So he should be able to figure that out.
Yeah, that was at the request of the EPA, that, I don't know
Yeah,
why
so-
they wanted that.
I saw that, but we already have all that information, so I don't think they're gonna probably need anything else. We wanna make sure that we're taking care of it.
If you just don't interrupt you. This is for the spring work that Dandel supplied a quote to,
Beach
for
Street.
Beach Street.
Is this? No, for Beach Street, because we've been paying a ton of, oh, this is going forward.
Right,
Oh,
this
pending.
is, you have that.
All right, thank you. This is pending for Beach Street. Perfect, thank you. That might be sooner rather than later, we were talking about with the weather, Sharon.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is too, is we just, I started gurgling today.
Am I still putting this through INI? That's where we put all the other stuff.
No. There's a
Don't
big-
forget all the, well, I got a few
Yeah.
other things that came through on R&M this week that I want to
Okay.
talk to you about.
Okay, we'll sit and talk.
Actually, they're in the packet I just gave you.
Okay.
It was,
That's all right. We'll take a couple minutes
all right.
after to talk
But
about.
you may wanna go home, if you
The right
wanna do it
account.
tomorrow. if you
Yeah,
could.
so we're-
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, Robin and I are trying to keep in sync on what accounts we're using for.
Okay.
All right, so
Bills.
365 Concord. You told me to advise the attorney that you would put him on the agenda
For April 23rd.
for April 20th.
20th, yeah, okay.
What time is that meeting that day?
That's what we're trying to ascertain. We're gonna decide probably by the end of the month.
All right, because I
If
just
it's
don't
gonna be in
want,
the afternoon or night. It
All right.
depends what they're gonna do with Zoom.
all right, I just don't want that to get away from us and
No,
then
I haven't, we
he's not
talked about that
notified.
today.
Can we notify him with the time TBD?
I did,
Okay.
of the date, but not a
Yeah.
time.
Right.
See, everything is gonna be what they do
Right,
with Zoom.
depending on what we do, right. But just so
Which-
he knows.
So the MMA has requested to the governor's
Mm-hmm.
office that they continue the Zoom, so keep your fingers crossed.
is that-
Yeah, but what I wanna do is I wanna put out something, say, would people mind if we moved it to the afternoon, just to get a general feel for it, let them voice at a meeting. We don't get a response, and I think it's gonna be up to us if we wanna
Did
meet
you
it.
put that on an agenda already?
I got it on for them for next meeting.
Oh, for Thursday?
No, not this Thursday, the
Oh.
following. I'm gonna mention it.
Oh, okay, because I knew I saw it somewhere, it must have
Yeah.
been that, okay. All right, did
Oh,
we?
no, I put it on today. We talked about it briefly
We
today about
talked about it today,
putting, let me give,
and you were going to post, he's going to post a notice after the rate study meeting, so that people aren't overwhelmed with
Okay.
sewer
yeah, because I
thoughts.
got a lot.
Sewer thoughts.
You mean like overwhelmed?
Yeah, I know, probably not,
Starting to look like me over there.
Oh, here it is.
I overwhelmed
You
some
can just
before.
FYI.
Oh, you want me to post that?
No, you
Not
can
yet.
have it. That's just for you. You
Oh,
can read
not
that
yet.
later.
Perfect, all right, thank you. Did we give David Taylor a letter on the asset management grant for the
That is on my
32.5?
to-do list, we discussed it today, and I will be sending out a letter.
All right, do you know when, because he wanted that
He wants it
letter
in by March, he wants it by March 10th.
March
Yep.
10th. He wanted it like 3 days after that meeting,
You said.
because he's been calling here looking
Yeah.
for it.
Submit the letter by March 10th.
No, he has to submit his letter, I think, by March 10th.
He's gonna get it. I'll do it tonight or tomorrow.
I'm just, do you want to just call him?
We can do that too.
Yeah, that way,
I will call him and let him know to proceed and that a letter will follow.
all right, because we're
How's that?
32.5 and 32.5, so, you know, I think that's our, isn't it 32.5?
Oh, you're
Yeah,
talking about the
drainage,
funds
yeah.
up front?
Yeah,
Yeah, plus. the
107.
plus the 32,309,
That's the in-kind services.
yep. I know he was waiting
And
for a
there's
letter,
150 on the grant.
If you
All
can
right.
just give him a
I
call.
will call him.
that way
I
we'll
don't
be
want
on
him
the
to- I don't want
same,
him-
I will
Yeah.
call him, absolutely.
or have him call us and say, oh, I ran with it, we don't get any. All right, so Beach Street, I paid everything through the I&I account for Beach Street so far. 14 Howard Street was kind of a weird thing the other day.
I mentioned that to them earlier today.
All right, and the clog had cleared, but all the grease and rags that showed up here afterwards, I don't know what kind of pressure released it, but it was bubbling up in their parking lot. And it's an unusual case because we have a main sewer line going through that property, we have an easement, which is unusual, we don't typically run through private property.
Which is why the blurb for the Godwins that I told you with the heavy rags and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
somehow it released itself and ended up down here.
It's apropos, you know, the sewer system and pressure.
All right, so
It rolls
the
down.
sewer work up at the schools began March 7th, that's today.
Yes.
Is anyone overseeing that work?
Well, Gary went up today and I'll go up, I told him what Gary can't, I'll do. So he's just gonna notify me. One thing I did ask him to do was see if he could, take some pictures as it's going on, ongoing, so we have that for the record. I'm curious to the flow on that.
All right, so the work might have gotten shut down today.
Why?
I don't know, it was some David Taylor item, you might wanna follow up with him.
Okay. Was it for lack of someone up there?
No,
Okay.
no, it has been something in the ground, I don't,
Oh, okay.
Oh, you know what that bitch is? Okay, no, I think it's about a pipe that he was worried about.
yeah, I don't know if you wanna touch base with
Yeah,
him on that.
I'll call Dave tonight. I'll call Dave tomorrow.
All right,
You have him tonight.
242 Union Street is Town Hall, so we have issues with the sewer underground on Goddard Ave, which is the street that runs beside and behind.
Mhm.
Sometimes we have problems with the church, where we have problems with Town Hall. And, I think it got taken care of, David called it into Hoadley,
Mike Hoadley addressed it.
was it Hoadley?
Mike Hoadley.
And you went up there, right?
Yeah, I went up there and Gary went up there.
All right, check.
What are these
Gary.
rags they're finding in this,
Hmm?
the rags?
Can't hear.
What kind of rags are they're finding in?
Wipes.
What?
Wipes, they call them rags, people put wipes in
Yeah,
the sewer.
that's what we call them. You know the flushable wipes? They're not flushable.
They're not, they build up and they
They get
cause,
caught in the grit, the rake.
I mean, I think they're paper, aren't they?
No,
No?
they're
not.
fibers.
Oh,
they're not, they don't break down.
They don't
and
break down,
say
they don't
they're flushable,
dissolve.
but they're really not.
There's a fiber.
Yeah, the packaging will say it's flushable,
Yeah,
but
they're
that
not
just
flushable.
means
It's
it's
false
nothing that's stuck in
advertising,
your
so
toilet.
Sue them
Right.
for our I&I money.
Right, I mean.
We should post something on.
Oh, we do
do.
all the time.
It's,
I mean, we should do it like every month or
We
something.
do,
just-
we try to mention it. Rick mentions it every time. He mentions it the
Right.
last two over the SSO.
Right, but more broader
Sewer system overflow.
communication to the public.
yeah,
you should ask
Because
them
they
to
do
load
it.
them.
Can,
it costs people money because sometimes
Yeah.
it clogs at their
because
home.
it's, and it's
It can't
breaking
get through the
things here,
lateral.
which costs them
It
money.
definitely breaks things down here.
Yeah, it gets into the lateral and that
Yeah.
jams them up.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm another thing I gotta remind to talk to you about afterwards.
I sent to planning the response on the 343, 333 Weymouth Street, which I think you all saw.
Yeah.
It included language from Chuck. I think we spoke about that at the last
Yeah.
meeting. So I forwarded that up to them.
Is that the one with the extension?
No, he's near the storage units. I haven't really seen what he's doing yet. Oh, no, that's down, around the bend. He's putting on an addition.
Is that the building that collapsed and,
No,
no,
opposite side of the street.
down by Nobles?
You know,
Yeah.
we also sent a letter to Susan Carter at 110 Industrial Park Road. Those are the people that paved over the manholes. Advising them to contact us in the spring when they dig them out and do their repaving. the carbon monoxide detectors, they didn't have dual detectors, or if they did, they didn't fit in the housing that we already had, so Rick actually requested a quote so we can have those installed. We haven't gotten the quote yet. And then the IPP program, so I have people coming up for renewals on their permits, which is easy peasy, except Rick and I haven't sat down to make sure that the language on the chemicals match the NIPDs, so we're gonna do that tomorrow morning. And then, that's it, this is just pending stuff that is just pending.
601 Ham Street. Remember we had a backup back in
I
November?
do, she
The-
passed away.
Yes, okay, that's what I wanted to tell you, because I received a phone call yesterday about Bill, and I directed him, I said, please don't direct those to the sewer department, any inquiries, direct them specifically to town hall.
Right, so Doug Lapp is the insurance officer for the town.
Right, that's what I
So,
told him to address it to.
Somebody was reaching out wondering why we hadn't gotten a claim, so I called Doug on the side and said, she was like end stages of her disease, and then he found out that she did pass away. But I think her brother is
Yeah,
gonna handle it.
Angela, yeah, he called me the other day.
He seemed like a nice guy.
You met the brother-in-law, this is her brother, who happened to be home at the time of that, and so she was I'm sorry I met her under those circumstances, she was a very nice woman.
So that's all I have.
Okey-doke. Do you have time, or?
Yeah, what do we?
I was gonna see where we stand with the administrative assistant.
I think it's called a clerk, part-time clerk.
However you wanna,
Yeah, that's the job description
Yeah.
through,
Right, and we were going to start that for July.
when can we start advertising for that?
That's a great question.
As soon as town.
I would say if we
Town
vote
meeting.
approval on it,
Yeah.
you've allocated the funds for FY '24,
Yeah, it's in the
and
budget.
it's not the best job market out there. I'd like to see us prepare an ad or something, once you guys agree on the,
Yeah,
doesn't it have to get
So-
voted on at town meeting first?
so.
does it? Why can't we start
No,
advertising?
because it's not been approved.
No, I don't think it has to go to town meeting.
Yes.
It's part of
I
the
don't know,
budget, though.
I think she's right.
Is it?
Yes.
I thought it did. I mean, we had approved, we had it in the budget, and then I think,
Because we had it in the budget.
right, but I
I'll
think,
check.
that was my understanding.
Me too.
I thought
I'll
I had to
make
go to
sure it
an
gets
article.
Because I don't think I wrote any article for that. Although I know it was discussed with Doug, so I'll make sure that
Oh, yeah, please
he
do.
writes something up. Yep.
What I'd like to do is start advertising for that as soon as possible, if we could,
But I think we
maybe
need
if
to
you,
wait.
if you could draw up an ad, just to have it ready to go, to give to Stacy.
Yeah. So we do that, not Stacy?
Huh?
For the particular verbiage that
Yeah,
comes
I'd
from
say-
us or
Well,
Stacy?
Stacy has a job description, she might
Yeah,
even
I
already
should
have an ad.
just-
Yeah, all right, well, why don't we see,
That.
if you, see, ask,
Alright,
what it
so-
would take to get it going, or be able to advertise it next week?
Well, I don't think you can advertise it till it's approved if it's going to town meeting.
Yeah, but we
Well, just find out if we can advertise it, we can or not, we can't, we can't.
And it has a
advertise-
July start date too, so.
So, yeah, as long as that's understood, I suppose.
Advertise it as mother's hours,
Mhm.
making people interested.
No, I'm gonna say Mother's House, just say,
Stacy.
Like,
no, I don't know if you give it any thought, is it something, or any of the burden from yours could be done at home for this person, or? Not initially, you're gonna have to train, but,
Well, it's mostly, I don't think so, cause it's mostly.
no, like I said, I just,
Yeah,
Throwing
I
out
don't
a
think it's
thought.
an at-home job.
Yeah,
Alright.
I mean, it was a
Maybe
struggle when I
something,
was,
but
when we did that 1 week on, 1 week off for a little while with, I hated that. It was so difficult because I had to bring so much stuff home. It's paper intensive.
no, like I said,
This is a very-
it was just a thought.
paper-intensive
Yeah.
All right, no,
business. I mean.
however you two wanna handle it, that's
Yeah.
fine.
All right, so I'll check with Doug for the article and I'll check with Stacy to get the ad running.
I mean, somebody,
Soon
like,
as
after a
possible.
while, if they had experience at it, I'm sure that they could, but was a struggle. So I have a laptop, but I don't know if we get them a desktop.
We could procure a desktop,
Oh,
or a laptop, however you want,
I have-
whatever would
What's-
be tie it to
what
yours.
works best?
I think the desktop.
What about a workstation?
We have a workstation in the other room. You just made me lose my train of thought. I have.
Not my fault. I got on your train.
What did you guys do to him during this meeting?
I got on your train a couple weeks ago.
Just, I forgot what I was gonna
Too
even
many
say.
questions.
Oh, I have to buy a coffee machine.
Great.
I think I have enough money to.
What about the printer?
Okay.
What about it?
Your printer wouldn't print colors.
It's just not printing at all. I just need Gino to come down here and get it going again.
Oh.
I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. It might need a new
So you
driver.
mean a fax machine
Okay.
No,
or a regular printer?
no, just a
Double take?
printer. Yeah, I already have the printer. What I need is a new copier. In the middle conference room, the shared one, that's
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah.
So I'm following up with the people that we have the service contract with.
Do we own that?
We own that one, but I'm thinking that the contract he gave us was to rent it. So I need to just iron that details out with him.
If we didn't, maybe someone else, another department would want to refurbish it and use it.
You can, it's like 10 years old. They don't have a life expectancy of 5 years. They're complaining because we have such a cheap
Hey, I don't know if I do now.
contract and thing is down more than it's up. But we use that coffee machine for scanning also. You know,
That's
like a bigger
important.
job.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a
Because
big
you
one,
try
so
to
you can
scan
get
on
it.
your desktop one and it's, it's slow.
Takes forever.
Do you want to look at one that'll do
It's
prints?
in a pinch.
Prints, one.
We already have one for the prints. That's like a
Okay.
specialized machine.
Yeah,
And we never use it.
all right,
I haven't used it once in 3 years. Yeah.
okay.
And if we do, honestly, I think it would be cheaper to run out to Staples and get the big prints done because that thing is a monster. They even tried to pawn off the one at the building department on us because theirs is a monster.
Like I said, I come up with these things, just feel free to reach out and slap me to shut me up.
I thought I was doing a pretty good job without having to hit you. Was
Hey, I
this-
do everything left justified.
Thank goodness.
There you
Yikes. Did you try to read his stuff? The words are like. Was there any other thing that we were gonna talk about?
Web design, but I don't know if that's something you two, you
Yeah.
want to do, or I don't want to hang you up later than you
Yeah.
have to.
I think I already gave all my comments on all
I
that,
think I
right?
did too.
And
And
at the level that you want the changes, that's Gino's level.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I
There-
just looking for that general organization concept of it.
Look at this
Gonna
Board of
fit.
Health page. They're using
Yeah.
it just like the town of
Yep.
Hull, the
Yep.
way that we should.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
We're,
Well,
Much
we
of
just
it.
haven't
Links to stuff
updated
that-
it to get all the links and the
yeah.
sub,
So Gino,
subfolders.
we have to tell them what we want on that
Oh, I
side?
did. I've talked to
Oh, you
Gino
did?
first, yeah, and said, I gave him a picture of someone else's website and said, I want it to look like this, and he said, yeah, tell me what you want. He said, but be careful when you design it, try and get it fully designed, so we don't have to go back and
Oh,
rework
he
the
doesn't
whole
want to
thing.
revisit it, okay.
Which makes sense, that's
Yeah.
how programs.
Just so Robin knows, we
He's so
voted to
tight on time.
approve
Yeah.
that for us, create a separate,
So, yeah, you know what, I'll come down.
What is this?
We'll
a
sit
separate,
together.
we're gonna
We
create
are
a
going
separate
to-
I&I, engineering and I&I fee to monitor.
We're going to increase
for
our
it
development fees by adding an additional fee, $6.61.
Mm.
That's the actual cost per
It will be
gallon.
applied at an 11-to-1 ratio on whatever new gallons are coming.
And this, and this, we'll visit in July.
So it's gonna be a combined fee,
No,
No,
Nope.
it's a new fee.
new fee.
right, but it's engineering and combined with
Right.
I&I removal, so
We're gonna use this
This
fee
is-
here to go into like a maintenance.
Repair and maintenance.
Repair and maintenance.
we're keeping that fee as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. To go into a maintenance fee.
So, Jeepers Creepers, you guys like went a little, I thought you were worried about them being able to afford it, so it's gonna be $6.61 a gallon.
Yeah, that's what it's
After we
actually,
apply the-
yeah.
Right,
That's what it's costing
but
us.
we're keeping this sewer remediation fee, and we're using that for what?
I'd like to use that for maintenance fees, to go into, to
Maintenance?
supplement our maintenance. Sewer maintenance fee.
Okay,
And again, we could revisit this in July. I just want to get this going now. where we got people coming in asking for hearings.
This got voted and approved today?
Today.
Yeah, effective April 1st.
Oh my God, thank God.
Yep, so we've covered our I&I costs.
It just, I wasn't dragging my feet on this. I didn't wrestle with this. Mine was coming out higher, but every time I did, that figure, I couldn't just look at the large amount. I had to look at the residents too. I don't want to blow the smaller guy right out of the water, but this is an actual
Well, this
cost.
doesn't really impact any of our residents.
So
No,
if it-
no.
as long as they're under the 440, it
Right.
doesn't impact them at
Right.
all. So
Right.
that's the best,
Exactly.
And in my,
that's the best case about this fee.
in my mind, if you have 5 bedrooms, you're in the development field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is, I had to
You're
get,
at
see,
long
I had to get
balance.
over that obstacle and I couldn't.
Yeah, no matter how I
And-
worked it, a flat fee, a sliding scale,
Yeah, and
never
then I
covered
just said,
it.
okay, I'm gonna take the 440 and throw that out the window.
Yeah,
and
and
stop
just say,
looking at
what's
that.
it cost us? That's what you're gonna pay, just what it costs.
And that's how I got that number.
And when you say we're gonna use this for like maintenance,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Like repairing pipes under the ground?
I'm gonna keep that for I&I, but this is general, like a general maintenance fund if it's
So-
here, if it's on Beach Street, if it's on anything like that
Oh,
nature.
all the stuff that's in our R&M account?
Yes,
Yes, repair and maintenance.
Okay,
So I guess
So-
the question is, do we need to talk to Scott for a separate account?
well,
How to bookkeep on
if
it?
you want it to be a revolving account, but we already have, so
We already
this,
have one.
they can both go into that I&I remediation unless you wanna keep it separate.
so I should've kept my mouth shut, we wouldn't have had this discussion.
This is a
Right,
good
because-
discussion.
Right, because we have 2 revolving accounts right now. We have sewer development,
Development.
we have I&I
I&I.
remediation, plus we have a budget line item for I&I remediation.
Right, which is gonna stay.
Right, so if this goes to the bottom line, then you can just increase your R&M budget for the following year. Or you can put it into a revolving so you can keep an eye on it.
I like that better.
I do too. I think,
You like the revolving?
I like the revolving. And just
But
update it.
remember,
Well,
stuff that
wouldn't
goes into your revolving is not gonna go into your, the account that we just set up. Did you guys vote for the stabilization fund?
no, that has to go on town meeting.
Okay, so we have an enterprise fund,
Right,
and if
That's
we
the whole
vote for the
picture.
stabilization, that extra cash is gonna go over there. You can't fund that from a revolving account, so
The
you.
stabilization,
Right, so you need to think about that.
that's why it should stay in the repair and maintenance.
That's an argument for that, so you have to decide if you wanna fund, like funding the stabilization fund to me is important because that offsets the cost of the new
The big
plant.
ticket stuff.
Right,
Mhm.
but you're not gonna have that option if you put it into revolving.
Right, I think if,
you two work that out.
yeah. I
Well,
think
it's
it should
not
go
up
in
to me,
repair and
I'd
maintenance.
only have a vote
Well, what
on
I'd
it.
like to, well, but you understand how it works and
Right.
where you're paying bills from. And I think it should go, if it's a repair and maintenance fee, it should go into the repair and maintenance account. And then as,
Well, that's what I would
But you
assume
can-
that would.
as you
If it
need,
goes to the bottom line, you can increase that R&M account without going into
Expenses?
revolving.
yeah,
Yeah, we have a budget item for R&M.
okay.
But we say we put 100,000 in there.
Mhm.
You can change that to 200,000 and whatever balance is left over from collecting that fee will go to your bottom line and you could direct
Yes.
that into your stabilization.
Yes, and as the fees come in, they go into there.
Right, they would stay
Same
in our
pot,
general
same pot.
budget. Exactly. If you
Yeah.
set up a revolving, it goes in
Yeah,
there.
No.
If you
no,
don't
I
pay
wouldn't
out
do
of
that.
there,
No,
yeah.
No,
All
I'm
right.
with you. We're just saying it differently. I agree. We got it.
Got it. What time you want me here tomorrow?
I'm gonna meet with Rick in the morning to go over the pricing.
Okay, I'll tell you after I get through
And
what
then I
page
have
you do
to,
this.
we have to be at town hall by 12, so if you wanna come here at 11,
Okay, I can be here at
that
11.
work?
I can be here at 11. And I'll follow behind you 2 steps respectfully holding those.
Mr. God. All right.
You know Thursday night, you don't have to show if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, I wanna see what they're all about.
Who's doing the minutes?
We're gonna record it.
I haven't done any minutes for any of those before, basically, like when we do the interviews and stuff.
The big.
I've basically just said, you know, we've,
Okay.
no, I don't say that, I do the minute, thank you. Wow. I do the minutes, but I just say, you know, they gave a presentation.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be
Yeah, that's
handouts that we
fine,
can
yeah.
include,
And a
and I
reference
put that
to
up on the website.
Okay,
I'll take a motion to end the meeting.
Motion,
Do I have a
second,
Third, all in favor, Mr. Ross?
yes.
Ms. Valley?
yes.
I don't wanna get-